Welcome to the Body Shop Physical Therapy. I'm Dr. Catherine Price. I'm a physical therapist. And in this video, I'm going to go over trigger point release of the erector spinae muscles. The erector spinae muscles are the true muscles of the back. They're the superficial muscles. They're going to help with holding your body upright. They run all along the spine. So your erector spinae, they're going to go all the way from the top, the very base of the head, down into the top of the sacrum. So they're going to expand all along the spine on each side. They're made up of the longissimus muscles, the iliocostalis muscles, and the spinalis muscles. And we call them the erector spinae, the paraspinals. So they go all along the spine. If you have scoliosis, there's usually an imbalance in that musculature. If you're having back pain from either lifting heavy and over contracting that muscle, if you've got weak abdominals and you're posturing where you're leaning forward, or you've got an arch in your back, then those muscles can become over contracted. We are holding our bodies up against gravity, and so most of the time we are fighting from leaning forward. If you're not using your core to hold your body upright, those muscles become engaged constantly, and that leads to back pain. If you're having back pain that is going to be inside the shoulder blade, around the thoracolumbar junction, so just on the mid part of the back, or if you're getting pain up above the hip area in the lower back, or even in the lower part of the buttocks, that can be from the erector spinae muscles. These muscles are a culprit to a lot of back pain and back problems. So if you release them and stretch them, what you can do is help reset the muscle tendon relationship in the spine and help with alleviating some of the discomfort coming from those muscles. And again, if you've got a postural imbalance and a scoliosis, these muscles are great to address, to balance in order to straighten the spine. They are attaching to the rib angle on the back long ways and along and into the transverse processes, which are the bony wings on the vertebrae, and they're going to line up and hold the body upright. They will bend to one side and they will extend if you contract them on both sides at the same time. So if you're just contracting one side, you're going to develop a side bend in one direction. And there's something called Fayette's law. So if you side bend one way, the vertebrae are going to rotate in the opposite direction, and that will then develop that curve that's imbalanced and becomes a scoliosis. So we want to go in and release the tension and that over contraction in order to alleviate any trigger points that's producing pain that can be along any areas of the back. So the rule of thumb, you want to start with a broad, softer surface area and work your way into a more firm and narrow surface. So what I'll do is start with a foam roller. We're going to do a release and then a stretch. And I'll show you the different surfaces you can use for the release, and then we'll go through some stretches. So to release the erector spinae, I'll use the foam roller. What I do, some people think that it feels good to roll low on the low back. I do avoid that for multiple reasons. So I'm not going to go along the paraspinals that are down lower. That's more of the aponeuroses, the thick connective tissue that it's going to converge down into. And most of the trigger points for this muscle group are going to be right in this area in the thoracolumbar region in those muscles that are spanning. So that's where we want to target, and then up a little bit higher. So we'll start in that area where most of the trigger points are located. And I'm just going to support my head because I want to make sure that my neck is supported. And I'm going to slowly go along those muscles all the way up into between the shoulder blades. So I'm not going to go over my neck, but I'm just going to stay up between the shoulder blades and then work my way down the spine. And I want to go real slow. And if I feel any tenderness, you can just hang out in that area. Now, if you're having back pain while you're doing this, you want to squeeze your buttocks and you want to support your back. So you don't want to have back pain while you are going through and doing this. Now it can be tender where you're putting pressure, but you want to be mindful that it's not producing low back pain. So this is one way that you can start to mobilize and release the myofascial tension and trigger points using a foam roller. If that becomes easy or not as effective, you can go to the more firm roller. And I'll start with the same area. I'm going to be in my mid-back region, the thoracolumbar junction, and I'm going to work my way up the thoracic spine, so the mid-back, between my shoulder blades, and then work my way slowly back down. And where you feel any tenderness or tension, you can hang out there for 20 to 30 seconds. And you want to work on the fascia for at least 2 minutes. And so you can spend as much time here as you need to. The more those muscles have been contracted, or the more state of tension and contraction that they've been in, the longer it's going to take to release that tension. The progression then will be to use the double lacrosse balls. So this is going to be a more narrow surface area, and it's firm. And I will start here. You can go on that thoracolumbar junction, so the bottom of the rib cage. I'm going to place the double lacrosse balls, support my head here, and I'm just going to work my way up between the shoulder blades. And here, that's going to be a lot more localized, and that'll be in that area where most of the trigger points are, and you can just rest in that area. Now, sometimes pressure here can produce discomfort or pain into the low back. You want to be mindful of that. If it starts to worsen, you want to stop. And again, you can squeeze your buttocks so that you're supporting your low back as you're releasing the tension and the trigger points in that region. And you can work your way up all the way between your shoulder blades. So most of the trigger points in that mid-back region, but up high between the shoulder blades, you're also going to find trigger points as well. After I've released the trigger points of the erector spinae muscle, I'm then going to stretch them. And I can do this in a number of ways. One way to stretch the erector spinae is going to be in a chair. I'm just going to bend forward and round out my back and let my head hang, and just open up the back and stretch the erector spinae muscles this way. Another way that I can stretch them is going to be on all fours, and I'm going to round out my back, looking down and holding here. I can hold anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds, or I can do continuous movement of holding for 5 counts just to stretch, and then come right back out of that. So I'm opening up the back and also stretching the erector spinae. Another way to stretch the erector spinae is to do a pelvic tilt. So if I tilt my hips backwards using my core, so if I contract my abdominals, it's going to open up the back and help the erector spinae relax and stretch. So I want to engage my core so that I can then round out, open up the back, and get those erector spinae to stretch and then relax. So I want to contract my abdominals, tilt my hips backwards, open up the back, and then relax. So release and then stretch. And when you finish, it should feel differently and should feel improved. And if you're not having any improvement, you do want to consult your physical therapist or your medical doctor and find out what's going on. And it's always a good idea to understand what the potential cause is before starting any of these exercises, so that you know that you're addressing the causative factor of why you're having back pain. But again, the erector spinae muscles are culprit in a lot of back pain, especially when you're lifting heavy or you're staying in an immobilized position for a long time. So movement is helpful to keep these muscles healthy. Or if you're in poor posture and you're leaning forward or you're bent forward and your abdominals are not doing the work, the back muscles, they'll overwork and it can cause back pain. So that is how I like to address the erector spinae, using the myofascial trigger point release releasing the erector spinae, and then going and stretching them to restore that length tension relationship. I hope this is of help and have a blessed day. Thank you.